Hey, I'm not going to tell you where this campground is because I don't want you to be afraid of it. And it's not this campground's fault. But last couple days have been weird. You know, we've had a lot of rain down here in way Southern California. And I'm back here at the base camp wall. And I stayed at a campground, yesterday actually. And I'm showing you in the clips here. The sun came out, had some nice weather there just for a little bit. But what happened there at this campground is kind of weird. And it's one I almost can't really explain because you had to be there, but I'm going to do my best. And the campground's got a loop, and there's a creek that runs through it, and water's running right now because we've had a lot of rain, but it dried up a little bit. And I did a couple loops around the campground there was actually quite a few people camping. It wasn't full by any means at all. There was one side of it was totally dead, and that's where I ended up being. But first I wanted to do just a full loop of the campground. This one is kind of a desert campground with some trees here and there, and I'm looking through the trees, sitting there just kind of dazed, and I see like what I thought was a hat. And I'm like, I'm just probably seeing things, you know. If it was a person, they wouldn't just be standing still like a statue. But that's what it looked like. So I just kind of shook it off for a second. I'm like, okay, you know, getting back to my stuff and organizing the picnic table. And then I look again through the trees, and I swear there's a guy standing there, there's no movement, and they're standing over across the creek. So I'm thinking, okay, no big. I'm gonna act like I'm just not seeing anything there, and did a few things, and then I thought, well, they're still not moving. I'm gonna just walk down the creek a little, like I'm going down to pay. There's a little pay booth, and then you could actually walk up the other side to get a view that way. So I walked down to the pay booth and then kept looking back and making sure they weren't going to scope out my camp or go over to my camp. And there was no movement over there. Went down to the pay booth and kind of messed around there, read the sign for a minute, looking back. And then I thought, well, they're not moving. So I came back up the creek on the other side of the creek, and I could see the other. They couldn't see me coming. I could see the back side of them, and they were just standing there, you know, looking at the creek, and kind of toward my camp, and I couldn't. And they were doing this. Man, are they scoping out my camp? That's what it looked like. So I walked all the way back down to the sign, and I walked back up to my camp. They were still there. I could see them through the trees. So I walked down to the creek where I could like look right at them and get across so they could see me. And I looked at them and I said, hey, hello. And they looked at me and they just smiled and didn't wave or anything. And now I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to take off. Maybe they're just enjoying themselves. And then I walked back to my camp, and then that person kind of just started walking down back toward the entrance of the campground. And I'm like, that was really weird to be so still and right there, right through the tree on the other side. Now, I thought, well, I'm going to see where they go. I'm going to follow them and see if they're camping here. And I followed down, kind of where I thought they may be, because they were walking. I'm on the bicycle now. I'm cruising down, and I don't see anybody, so I just keep going and go out of the campground, kind of down the road a little, and there they are walking out of the campground down the road toward town. And so it made me think, well, they're not staying here. Maybe they just came up to enjoy the place, and that was it. But I went back to my campground. I didn't really sleep great that night, but there was other people camping up above me, so it was cool. But, it was just an awareness. Just goes to show you can't be overly paranoid, but also if you're someone and there's someone camping close to you and you're just standing in the woods, maybe be aware of that, like how you look or whatever. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Just another weird and wacky story over here at Tectonic.